Comrades and fellow young South Africans, happy Youth Month.
Wait. You, KG, a youth.
Youth Ndala. I'm one of Madiba's children. I survived dial-up internet, mix it and soft porn on national television. I was part of the struggle. And by that I mean learning trappe van vergelijken because I was one of the first black kids in an Afrikaans word school.
L is vir lekker, M is vir melk, Dad.
But this year Youth Day hits differently. It's 50 years since the Soweto uprising.
Young people stared the apartheid government in the eye and said, we're done.
All of us were ragtig f***ing gutful of being forced to learn Afrikaans in school.
On the 16th of June, we're going to be starting to write exams. We were avoiding exams.
But sadly, many young people lost their lives that day. To honor their sacrifice, June 16 was made a public holiday. We're one of the only countries in the world where people take the day off for Youth Day.
Which is ironic because most of our youth don't have work to take a day off from.
The youth of 1976 built our democracy. So, 50 years later, why are young people getting left behind? And what can we do about it?
Our young people, the zombies are getting discouraged from even going to vote, mainly because they know they're voting for a party, a politicians, a group of politicians or thieves.
Young lions, let's get away. Comrades, South Africa is officially under minority rule.
Apartheid really began in 1948.
Not that kind of minority. Young people 35 and under make up more than half the population. But less than 9% of MPs in parliament are under 35.
We are ruled by a minority of opas and omas who should be playing bingo in a retirement home somewhere. Comrades, Cupcake is 73 years old. That is one very stale and crusty confectioner.
And the Minister for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities is 67 years old.
67! And don't forget about the Gobo that's running for mayor in Joburg. She's 75, comrade.
This is one of the reasons young people don't feel like politics is for them. There's hardly any of us there.
Young people are underrepresented within decision-making circles. It's less about representation, but more of really considering the fact that young people are political drivers and not just pawns.
And for the couple of young people who do make it to parliament, this is what they have to look forward to.
What will be the criteria to ensure fairness, transparency and equitable access, especially in underserved communities? Thank you.
Her own party's chief whip interrupted on a point of order.
I rise on a point of order. I've said campaign voice, not below talk voice.
That is not a point of order, Honorable Madam.
That's completely out of order.
And it's not an isolated incident. The EFF's Sihle Lonzi was demanding accountability on SETA board appointments, the institutions meant to help young people bridge the gap between education and the job market.
Don't tell me the board appointments of SETAs is not in the scope of the DG. No. If you want to protect the corruption of SETAs, the DG must tell us when you've got a minister that has appointed the son of Gwede Mantashe in the boards, and we must not ask him.
It sounds like they were bridging another gap between the politicians and the cookie jar.
Lonzi was evicted from parliament for asking that question.
Thrown out for fighting corruption that directly affects young people. Shout out, fighter!
He was later vindicated when the higher education minister was fired over the same scandal. Despite all this, young people still show up and demand accountability.
I'm part of the National Youth Coalition, which has convened this event. We really believe that the youth of the country, who make majority of the population, are not prioritized.
The youth demand that government urgently and conclusively combat youth unemployment.
Young people have been marching to the president's doorstep on Youth Day with a list of demands. For 2 years running, they've been left on red.
Ghosted by Cupcake.
In February this year, Ramaphosa promised to meet youth in Khayelitsha ahead of SONA. They got the deputy president instead.
Getting Paul Mashatile when you're expecting Cyril is like going to the fridge, seeing an ice cream baggie, but you open it and it's leftover funeral food.
So, as you can imagine with all this, young people have been getting pretty pissed off. So the government came up with a plan, a very low resolution, grainy PDF, but nevertheless, a plan.
Oh great, a plan. How's that going?
South Africa has one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the world. And here's what our leaders say about it.
We must move away from the values of entitlement.
People expect that government to go and give them jobs.
That's rich coming from someone who's had a government salary longer than most of our viewers have been alive. And whose son was one of those improperly appointed to a SETA board. Remember that from earlier?
One of our biggest frustrations is that all of our frustrations are framed as laziness, right? No matter which way you want to express what you are going through or whatever it is you're going through, there's always someone older or an institution waiting to invalidate it.
That's Letabo Maluke, a 22-year-old visual studies graduate and content creator with almost 100,000 followers on TikTok. Like many other young South Africans, he's tired of being blamed by government officials when it's the government causing the problems in the first place. Whether it's the SETAs, the National Skills Fund, NSFAS, everything built to help young people is being mismanaged or looted. And when there finally is a youth employment program that actually works, like the one that placed hundreds of thousands of young people as teaching assistants in schools, they mysteriously stop paying for it.
That's like starting a diet, losing 10 kilograms, and then eating a whole cake to celebrate. Trust me, I know. So, young people don't see themselves in parliament or cabinet. They get mocked when they show up. The systems meant to help them are broken, and the president ghosts them. So is it really surprising that they don't vote?
A recent survey found that 76% of young people say political parties don't care about them. 75% aren't interested in formal politics, and only 40% are interested in elections.
So many of our politicians spend years and years and years campaigning for a single seat in parliament, and then once they get assigned a portfolio, it doesn't do anything. As a matter of fact, we see more and more things that were supposed to empower the youth being cancelled. So I feel like I know why I use my vote, but I also understand why young people wouldn't want to use theirs.
Okay, things are bad, but let's have a reality check. Let's remember what it actually cost to get here. I can sit here and roast cupcake all day, and no one is shooting me, except the cameraman. Shut up, Mikhail.
In June 1976, thousands of black school children marched through Soweto against Bantu education. One of the young people who helped organize the march was Seth Mazibuko. He's now 66 and one of the last surviving leaders of the class of 76. He turned 16 the day before the march.
Can you imagine a 15-year-old asked to lead and plan?
The apartheid government responded with bullets.
We started seeing the children that we led out of the classrooms being mowed down by old men. That's the scene I would not wish for any. We went to Baragwanath Hospital. The nurses told us, "You are not going to find any of those children in the wards. You are going to find them in the mortuary."
The class of 76 were insurgents, and many paid the highest price.
I still call it the battle of the bullet versus a book.
After the march, Seth was arrested and then spent 7 years on Robben Island. His belief is this: if there was no 1976, there would never have been 1994.
What was the bullet is now the ballot.
Today's youth face a different battle. Not Bantu education, but exclusion, unemployment, and lots of broken promises.
What we did in 1976, that is why even within or under democracy, you still had fees must fall. The only difference that might be there, it is the magnitude of unemployment. It pains me to see young people who are walking around here as though it's a holiday. The reason being they're unemployed. It pains me to see people still in shacks.
So where's the hope in all of this? Well, the class of 76 were locked out too, and they still changed South Africa. So the question is, can our generation do it again?
With TikTok, ChatGPT, and a Stanley Cup in hand, I wouldn't be surprised.
let's talk about what needs to change, starting with the system itself.
Our electoral system must change because we are not electing a person that we can hold accountable. We're electing a party. And when you challenge that person says, I'm not accountable to you, but to my party.
Seth's not alone. Researchers and political scientists are calling for electoral reform. So MPs answer to voters, not their party bosses.
If young people are the large demographic in society, then we should play a significant role in decision-making processes.
And it's not like there's no blueprint. Around the world, countries are finding ways to actually include young people in their democracy.
And not just in a pretty speech on Youth Day.
In the UK, 15 young people who'd been shut out of the job market used legislative theatre to present their lived experiences directly to policymakers. Their play led to concrete policy proposals. In Europe, youth are being included in citizens' climate assemblies. Young people deliberate on climate policy alongside other citizens, and governments must respond to their recommendations.
May Marlies. Imagine that. A government required to listen. What a concept. What a concept, I tell you.
Here's the thing though. Young South Africans aren't waiting for government to listen.
Just because of spaces keep us out doesn't mean we can't create our own.
They're doing politics on their terms, at school, at protests, on social media, and right here on Politically Aweh.
We've got a couple of questions.
I would really want to ask, do I really stand a chance in the future when it comes to the situation that we are in?
This generation is more tolerant and inclusive than any that came before. 80% of young South Africans believe that LGBTQIA+ rights deserve greater protection, the highest on the continent.
And they'll cancel you before HR drafts an email.
Young South Africans will put themselves out there. They're not afraid to be visible. They're not afraid to be seen, which is something I think the youth of 76 would look back on with so much pride, because being able to just exist and take up space is something that they wanted so badly for us. And I'm just so happy that the South African youth gets that right every single time.
I lived in 3 stone ages. Stone age number 1, it was when I was throwing stones against apartheid. 2, it is Robben Island, when we're breaking stones in the quarry. Post 1994, I say to young people and to South Africans in the world, it's time for us now to be gathering stones.
And the 4th is getting stoned. We fought for that too, comrades.
The youth of 1976 were locked out, and they still broke the door down. Today's youth are locked out again, but they're building their own doors.
It's time, guys. Please give us another 1976 in a stone gathering way, but young people leading and taking over.
It's literally do or die.
Young people haven't actually seen democracy work. We've only been at the cold phase of broken promises and failure.
So 50 years after 1976, the fight isn't over. It's just changed.
The question isn't whether young people are ready.
The question is whether the old politicians are.
Because if they're not, we know a guy who's organized a march before.
We're tired of these old people.
All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. If you thought it was cooked, it means good. It also means done. In this case, it's both.
Okay, KG, share this episode. Send it to a friend. Send it to an MP. Send it to Cupcake.
Until next time, stay away. Most of our viewers. Yo, this is gonna be long, guys.
LGBTQI plot.
Oh, that's rich coming from someone who's had a... And whose son was one of those improperly. Okay.